Hey everybody, what's up? It's Babylonius from peakofserenity.com here with another Mythic commentary kill video. Not quite a guide, but not quite not a guide either. So I'm going to take you through my first kill of the 9. This was my guild's second kill. My first kill of the 9, I set out the first one just because it was my turn to sit out. But it's a relatively easy fight. Third fight you'll face in Sanctum. So we'll get down into it. You'll see for this that I went largely with single target talents. I am Necrolord, although certainly Kyrian would be fine. Even though it is a 2-target cleave fight at the start, you really benefit the most from being single target. The primary damage kind of comes from later in the fight. But certainly if you want to just kind of get a lot of pad damage, a lot of damage out early on, then you can do so with AoE talents. So what you may see is that I held Bone Dust Brew for when the ad comes out. Really just kind of gives me the opportunity to spam. Of course, I was using hit combo and forgot that for a second, so I dropped hit combo because I hit Spinning Crane Kick back to back. So make sure you're conscious of that, like I wasn't. But you can, good solid advice is to Touch of Death that first ad right before it gets close to death. Just get your Touch of Death on cooldown, ekes you out a little bit more damage. Other than that, it's, single target burn. You have 2 targets really, so you can switch in Spinning Crane Kick if you so want, but I wasn't using any AoE conduits or any AoE talents or anything like that, so I really just kind of focused on single target when there was only 2 ads up. At least as best I can. Certainly couldn't resist some AoE at some point. But yeah, so during this first phase, you're mainly just cleaving down these 2. You can try and time your cooldowns so that you kind of hit maximum ads. I probably should have popped Bone Dust Brew a little bit earlier there, just so that it had a little bit more value up on that ad, but I didn't. But yeah, other than that, you're just kind of fighting, follow the mechanics. Windwalker, you might get some mechanics on this fight, but probably not a ton. There's a decent amount of kind of regular raid damage that you can use things like Touch of Karma on. Certainly, when things explode or you have to run through various things, there's just kind of a lot going on in this fight that does damage. Windwalker is also very useful to get those interrupts. As best you can, try and get those interrupts. You'll see here that I hold my cooldowns so that they line up with the 3rd ad coming. That is when we Bloodlust. It's when most teams will Bloodlust. So you see here I have all my cooldowns. Bone Dust Brew will be up momentarily. But now that they're all stacked up, I'm going to use all my cooldowns and go bananas. Remembered not to drop hit combo at this point. But this is where, if you're padding, this is where you're going to do maximum pad. During this fight, and really the maximum, you're going to see a lot of logs on the top logs that really just maximize this period of time. But really overall, if you're progressing on this boss, you're really going to want to just get through, do what you have to do, but make sure that you get through to Skyja and then mainly single target. There's a lot of things on this fight that could have you going in and out, so really make sure kind of liberal use of your transcendence. If you get the debuff that has to get dispelled, anything like that. This soak mechanic is very useful to use a cooldown on, or Touch of Karma if it's available, stuff like that. There's a lot of damage. It's not a overly dangerous fight. It's a relatively simple. A lot of teams kind of overheal this. Kind of just erase a lot of the difficulty of this fight if you overheal it. But there's a lot of stuff to kind of regularly use a cooldown on, so just keep that in mind as you're doing some of this. But otherwise, relatively simple. You probably won't see me use Transcendence here because I'm exceptionally terrible at it. When you get stuff to move in, you just run against it like this. I'm running against it to move in. Roll is, of course, very useful. Just make sure you don't roll out the other side. Or certainly the mechanic that pulls you in, you need to run away from. Windwalker's also good at that. Those are good times to use your Tiger's Lust. Stuff like that. So you see that because I was using single target conduits and stuff, my Zuen and my Bone Dust Brew were desynced here. So you see that I wait for them all to come up, and I had used spinning Storm, Earth, and Fire earlier when I shouldn't have, so it's not up, so I'm not going to get a use of that here when you would really want to. You see I stayed out of that because I have the link, but everything's here, everything's on, so I'll pop on my cooldowns and just go into single target. Like I said earlier, I am Necrolord. I did switch mostly because I don't like Kyrian. Kyrian will probably be a little bit better on this fight, just because Kyrian is a little bit more single target focused. But Necrolord really does just fine, as well as having Fleshcraft for some of these damage phases and stuff is very useful. But the difference is going to be small. There's a decent amount of movement here, but it is predictable. So something like Night Fae actually would, this is a fight that Night Fae could do okay on. Really the biggest weakness is that Night Fae simply is not strong in AoE. So, or in single target, sorry, and this is a single target fight. So really Night Fae would be a little bit behind, and then Venthyr, who plays Venthyr. But yeah, it's just kind of a long, once you get through the excitement of having all of those 3 ads, or maybe even 4 targets up at the same time, it's kind of just, get there. Not overly quick, not strong, not a large amount of strong DPS timers. As you see, we have, we had a healer yeet himself off the side of the platform, so we were down a healer for a long time, and we were overhealing it, so it really didn't matter. Here I got the big purple debuff, big explosions, good time to use diffuse magic, or another cooldown, as well as use a lot of, movement abilities. I really should have used Transcendence there. Popped Fleshcraft just because I was getting a little bit low, trying to play a little bit safer in my game as best as I can. So be careful with that. Obviously, very easily could have Flying Serpent kicked myself right off the edge, but I didn't, thank God. But yeah, not much to say really about this fight. Relatively simple. Listen to your raid leaders. I recommend going with single target talents, as well as diffuse magic. But really the AoE is going to be reasonable. It's just going to come down to whether you get a lot of procs early. Are other people AoEing hard in your group and stuff like that? Obviously, if you don't get a lot of Dance of Chi-Ji procs at the right times, or if you have a lot of other people who are stealing your AoE damage, then it's just not going to be worth it. It is, a single target fight for 80% of it. So, don't be afraid to focus on boss damage and stuff, and not worry too much about, padding or, really maximizing your parse. The boss has got to die. You can maximize your parses later. But yeah, other than that, not much more to say. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm getting to a bunch of other ones tonight before I head out on vacation. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe to my channel, like the video. Let me know in the comments if I missed any other information that you would have really liked, for me to cover, so I can try and cover it for future videos. Want more information, check out more stuff on peakofserenity.com or in the Peak of Serenity Discord. If you want to support me, do that through Patreon or PayPal, which will be linked below. Other than that, I'm trying to get back into the swing of these videos, so I'm sure this one's less than perfect, but I'll try and get better as the tier goes on. So other than that, have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.